This podcast is hosted by Standing 8 Count, and my co host is Himadri, aka Daz. And we have talked about the upcoming Canelo fight with Danny Jacobs. We talked about who we thought would win the fight. We gave our views about predictions as to how the fight will play out and how the fight will end. We also talked about the weigh-in, the controversial weigh-in, and the shoves. We talked about the Jacobs weight restriction. Then we also talked about some of the bets that I've placed, so you could get a feel for that. We then talked also about the undercard. I made some bold predictions prior to some of the undercard fights, so it'll be interesting you having a listen to that. We then talked about Golovkin leaving Sanchez and him hiring Jonathan Banks as his new coach. We also talk about some Deontay Wilder and Joe Calzaghe, which will be put into a separate video. So here we go. Hope you enjoy and have a good listen. Peace.
Hello?
Daniel.
Hey, how are you?
Hello. Sorry I'm late.
Yeah, it's good. So good.
Yeah, but I've just literally just been driving in Oxford. Well, I went to Oxford for, the what do you call it? Vista.
Oh yeah, yes.
Shopping.
The
Yeah,
shopping mall, yeah,
Vista.
yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah, the village.
with the village. Yeah, and then it's literally just arrived 10 minutes ago. Yeah, it's been a bit crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you pick up any designers then?
It wasn't for me. It was for the missus. £500 Mulberry bag. I don't get it. I just don't get it. So, yeah.
It's nice to know you're spending your monthly salary wisely then.
I wouldn't say wisely is the word. Why wisely is a loose term. I don't think this covers it.
It's either that or you be sleeping outside, isn't it?
Yeah. That's the thing. Honestly, it's been one of those days. Oh God.
Days.
Yeah. What are you saying?
Yeah, no, not bad. I think even one of the fights has started already.
It's started already. What the
hell?
What's the undercard?
It's so the undercard is we've got John Ryder and he's fighting
you said mention yesterday, didn't you?
Some guy, I can't remember his name now.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he looks a bit big actually. He's a Mexican. He looks quite bigger than John Ryder.
Mexicans always they always pull up the upset.
Yeah, but I reckon Ryder knocks him out though.
What round?
No, I reckon he'll probably knock him out.
What round do you reckon?
Good question. I don't know. I heard maybe mid rounds before midway, before the midway. I reckon.
Is that a 12-round fight or a 10-round fight?
It's a 12-round fight.
12-round fight.
Yeah, it's a 12. I'm not sure if it's an eliminator for something. I haven't had a look. Let me have a look. I don't think it is, but I'll just have a quick look now. Actually.
Yeah. All right.
But yeah, it looks like a decent fight.
Yeah, that would be a decent fight actually. Yeah. With Ryder, is that the first one as well?
No, I think that there was a fight earlier on, but obviously on Sky Sports. This is the first. This is the first one. Yeah, the starting of Sky Sports.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
I'll tell you what. Did you watch the weigh-in for Alvarez Jacobs?
Let's get into it then. So obviously that's the first thing we've got to talk about, isn't it? The weigh-in.
Yeah. That got a bit heated.
What did you make of the weigh-in then?
Alvarez reacted a bit. It's a little bit. I thought it was about out of order, to be honest. I didn't think there was enough there to react so mad. I thought it was a bit out of order, to be honest. I think Jacobs is getting under his skin.
Well, you thought that was the other thing. So there's a lot of talk about. Some people were saying that Alvarez reacted first. Some people said Danny Jacobs reacted first, and I can't really tell who reacted first. Really, I mean, it looks to me like Alvarez obviously got close to each other. They came close to each other. They both sort of like the momentum sort of like took themselves into each other. and neither of them wanted to really back down. So obviously their heads meet, and it looks like Canelo sort of, he was sort of like carried on leaning in more.
Yeah.
And so I think Jacobs then pushed back, sort of. Well, no, Canelo then pushed in a bit more.
Yeah,
and then Jacobs pushed even harder, and that's when the shove came in. So it's difficult. I think it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. I can't really say one person was more aggressive than the other, really.
I think it was. I think it was initiated by both.
I think they both started off like the head coming together first. At the point the heads touch, I think it was you couldn't really say whose head came to meet the others. And I think both of them brought their heads in together, really.
I think they both put their heads in together. I agree with that. But I would say that arguably, Canelo reacted the more stronger out of the two in terms of he was the one that got
he pushed
slightly more pissed off.
So when the heads touched, they were sort of like almost sort of like on balance. And then Canelo, you could see, if you look in slow motion, Canelo sort of was sort of like leaned forward. It was literally leaned forward, like his whole body was leaning into the head.
Yeah.
And then he sort of like rose onto his toes.
Yeah.
And then he sort of then leaned in more. That was the point where he leaned in more. And then Jacobs then, sort of like leaned in even, then leaned in as well.
But do you think Jacobs was fully within his rights to lean a little bit more in there? Because I think, although I think both of them acted in the same manner, i.e. they both leant against each other's heads and pushed each other and tried to have that, that force of will.
Yeah.
But I think Canelo, his reaction was a lot more, well, not a lot more, but a little bit more aggressive than Jacobs. I think Jacobs was under control, but it was only by virtue of Canelo in that split second reacting a little bit more aggressively, which then made Jacobs do the same. What I'm trying to say is I think it's because of Canelo's reaction that it escalated. So I think it's hard to say because everything happened quite quickly. But in that split second when it did happen, it seemed from my angle that it was Alvarez that reacted.
Yeah, it's difficult to call. I think it's the heat of the moment. That's my personal view. It's a heat of the moment thing. I think, they're both pumped. These guys are proper pumped for this fight. So that's what caused it. But I think it's what surprised me the most was obviously after the shove. It looked to me like Canelo was extremely more upset about it. Like, how dare you?
Yeah.
It was almost like, how dare you do that? Like, well, I was like, well, you're both doing it. You're both doing it.
No, I agree. Do you know what? That's what I found surprising because in most of his career, I can't confess to following his whole career from fight one to fight, last fight that he fought against Rocky Fielding. But he always seems to be cool, calm under pressure. I can't remember him
Both of them.
Both of them, yeah.
Both. They've always been cool and calm. Both of them.
Yeah, but there's not been any needle in this in the background in the pre-fight preparation or anything in the conferences. There hasn't been any needle. There hasn't been anything said. Could be.
They've been respectful all the way through.
Yeah.
So this is totally out of character for both of them. It's very unusual. It's very unusual because obviously I found Canelo really trying to go for him. Like there are people pulling him back. Is it his karate stance? Like he's about to throw some karate kick or something. And I was like, what is going on here?
I have a theory behind this. It might be a completely it might be an unpopular theory, but I think Canelo, in his head, I think he's worried a little bit.
I can't read anything into this. I mean, these guys,
it's just surprising. The reaction is so surprising.
Yeah, I know. I agree with you, but I think these guys, they're championship fighters. They've been through championship fights. There's no fear in either of these guys.
I don't think no. I don't think there's any fear in fighting Jacobs. I don't think it's.
Mm-hmm.
I think this guy, both guys actually, they're so they're so prime. They're just such champions that you can't actually say that they'd be in fear of anyone.
Mm-hmm.
But his reaction was just complete. I mean, it's the thing is for someone as calm, cool, and collected as Canelo is. If there was arguably more needle in the fight in the second fight against Golovkin with the whole drugs fiasco and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
There was a lot more said pre-fight between those two fighters and their two promoters than this. I can't actually even remember anything controversial being said prior to this fight taking place, apart from maybe I think Jacob said something about. I think what did he say? There was an interview with him where he said that he's going to control Canelo, and he should if he had his way again, he would dominate Golovkin in a way that Canelo could only dream of, or something along those lines.
Yeah.
So there was something that I read. I can't remember from
I
the top of my head, but
recall
yeah.
Danny Jacobs saying that Canelo's never fought anyone like him.
Yeah.
He says that he's bigger, he's stronger, he's faster, and he's a better boxer.
But that's par for the course, though.
What's his name? Triple G. I'm sorry, Canelo has never fought anyone like that, and so that's why I think, it's all talk.
But that's the thing. It's all talk, and he's heard it all before. So for him to react in like that, I did think it was very strange. I mean, unless it's got to a point with Canelo, especially after his last fight against Rocky Fielding, where basically Rocky Fielding bent over backwards for him. He was so respectful. Yeah. He was so in awe of Canelo that Canelo knew the fight was done before the bell.
Are you watching this fight?
No, I need to go. I need to put Sky Sports
on. Round 3.
Is it round 3 already?
Round 3.
Oh, God. Well, what's the saying? Who do you reckon's on top of the points?
Well, I'm not sure this fight's going to go into round 4 at this rate.
Oh, shit, really? All punches flying, I see.
She was only going for round 4.
Oh, shit.
I did say it, didn't I?
You did call it. You said mid-rounds.
Oh, dear.
So my assumption was
it's
5,
been called
5,
off.
6.
It's been called off. Fight over.
Oh, shit.
Fight over. I should have put money on this.
There's a lot of things that you should have put money on and you haven't. There's a lot of things you should have put some money on.
All right, let's move on to the next topic then. Jacobs weight restriction. Did you hear about this?
No, I haven't heard about this.
You don't know about the Jacobs weight? So basically,
no.
In obviously when he signed the fight, obviously it's middleweight fight, as you know.
Yeah.
It's 160 pounds. That's the middleweight limit.
Yeah.
And so the contract stipulates that neither fighter, obviously this is more to suit Canelo than Danny Jacobs, and neither fighter should rehydrate above 10 pounds. So they can only rehydrate up to 170.
Yeah.
Obviously, Danny Jacobs is a bigger guy, and so when Danny Jacobs rehydrates, he could easily rehydrate to, potentially 180. Because he's a naturally bigger guy.
Yeah.
If you remember, obviously, Danny Jacobs has history for this, because when he fought Golovkin, he rehydrated to a point where he actually broke the IBF. I'm sure it's the IBF, but I'll check again. He broke the IBF rules for same-day weigh. Same-day weighing. So obviously on the night before, he was on scale, so it was on the legal limit, which is 160. But he rehydrated over the IBF limit. I think is the IBF. And obviously he couldn't win the IBF. If he'd won the Triple G fight, he wouldn't have won the belt. but he didn't care. He didn't care. He just wanted to do whatever he needed to do to win the fight. So
Yeah.
obviously Canelo's must have been worried about that. That's my personal view, anyways. So hence why they've put that in the contract to say if
Ah.
he rehydrates over 170, then
Yeah.
per pound he'll lose. Whoever does that would lose $250,000 per pound over that limit. So
So it's not even, it's not even peanuts
so
here. We're
so,
not even talking peanuts.
so get this right.
Yeah.
Already this morning when
Hmm.
Danny Jacobs weighed in this morning, it was already 173. So
So
he's
he's
already 3 pounds over
He's already 3 pounds over
over the
limit.
170 limit, or the 170 rehydration limit.
Is
So
there
that's
is there any kind of threshold in that? As in, say, for example, if he's 1 pound of the limit, do they give him a bit of leeway, or is it 170 or out? As in
no, no.
minimum.
It's just a penalty, as in they'll fine him. He'll
So
get,
even if he's like
he'll
half a
have
pound or a pound over the limit.
he'll have deducted from his purse $250,000 per pound. So if he goes 10 pounds over,
Yeah.
then 250 times 10, that's 2.5 mil.
Yeah. Well, what purse is he getting for this? How much is he getting for this fight anyway?
I think it's guaranteed about 10 million from the design side.
Okay.
So I mean,
10
he
million.
doesn't care. He doesn't. I'm sure he doesn't care.
25% though. 25%.
I'm sure he doesn't care. Look, what's
Yeah.
it's still getting like it's still getting like what 7 mil.
7.5 million. Yeah. 7
He's
point.
still
Yeah.
getting
7
7
million.
mil.
7.5.
And at the
Yeah.
end of the day, if he wins the fight, then
Yeah.
he's a unified champion.
He's a unified champion,
And
and
he
that
beat Canelo.
recompensates
No
itself.
one's gonna
Yeah.
remember what clause, what the rehydration clause says, and who's gonna remember any of that? All everyone remembers is that he beat Canelo. That's
He
what's
beat
gonna be
Canelo.
remembered, isn't
Yeah.
it?
He beat Canelo in his prime as well, in his absolute
Exactly,
prime. And then
exactly.
once he becomes unified champion, like you say, no one's gonna remember. Oh, he may have been in breach of the rehydration rules, which he paid a penalty for. But who cares? He'll be that.
Exactly,
No one will give a crap.
exactly.
And yeah, and that will recompensate itself, being the unified champion and being victorious against Canelo. That will just recompensate itself like millions and millions of times over.
Yeah,
So
and then never mind the fact that there'll then have to be a rematch.
that'll be a big rematch.
Exactly.
That'll
Imagine
be
it'll be like the Triple G Golovkin Canelo. It'll just be like that. They'll just have rematch upon rematch.
They will, but this one would be a shock because I mean, with Canelo Triple G, even though Canelo was more, how Canelo wins this comfortably, I think it's either going to go the full distance with Canelo points, even if Canelo doesn't knock him down or knock him out. I think leading up towards that moment, I still think it'll be a pretty 50-50 fight, evenish fight.
Up until the time the knockout comes.
But up until the time the knockout comes, yeah, I think it's gonna be. I think Jacobs is gonna hold his own. I think he's gonna more than hold his own. I think he's gonna really give Canelo's not trouble in the sense that he's gonna but he's gonna be hard to break down. I think Jacobs is gonna be hard to break down. I think it's gonna be 50-50 fight.
So do you think there's any chance this fight goes the distance?
I think there is. How I see this fight going is that Jacobs will hold his own in the first 6 rounds, and then after the 6th round, I think Canelo's going to start taking control, and then I think it's between round 6 and 12 that Canelo will do the most damage that he can. It's a tough one. I can't. Thing is, when I last saw Jacobs against Golovkin, he looked really good. He looked really, really good. He looked quite. It was like what's that term? The irresistible force against the immovable object. I'd put him in the latter category. I think it's going to be very hard to just knock him out straight. I think it's going to be difficult. I think he's got good defensive skills. Personally, I think I think he'll be able to hold his own. I think people are underestimating him slightly.
Yeah. It's interesting because I think there's a Twitter feed going out at the moment from Sky Sports where they interviewed Golovkin and they asked Golovkin who he thought was going to win the fight, and he laughed and said, "I have no idea." He says, "I just want to watch the fight," and he wouldn't call it. He wouldn't call it.
I think that tells you everything, doesn't it? Really. I think that's quite telling.
It is quite telling.
I think Canelo will win the fight. I think eventually he will win the fight. I think you remember the Amir Khan fight. Now, obviously, this is a completely different fight to that fight. But do you remember how Khan was not bossing that fight, but he was better than Golovkin. He was better than
on the cards. I mean, the rounds. I think he was taking the rounds against Canelo until he got stopped.
I think Canelo is a massive. He's a big hitter. I don't know if Jacobs is as big a hitter as Canelo, but Canelo's got that one punch power which will just knock anyone down. So if he can get that, then the fight could be over whenever. But I just think Jacobs has got that bit of steel in him. I think he can take it the distance. Now, I'm not saying he's going to win it in that distance. I'll be surprised if Jacobs wins it. But what I won't be surprised is if it goes 12 rounds. I wouldn't be surprised at that.
To be honest, if it goes the distance, then the reality is, we all know, the reality is that Canelo is most likely to take it on the cards.
Yeah.
That's the reality.
It doesn't matter. The sad reality, but that is the reality.
How you really, really have to beat the living lights out of Canelo. For him to win on the cards. Literally, I mean, pretty much like, what's his name? Beat Lemieux. I think we'd have to beat him pretty much like that. Comprehensive beating for him to win on the cards. Otherwise, I can't see Danny Jacobs taking the cards. Well, I could be wrong, but yeah, we'll have to see.
The thing is, it's weird because I can't see Danny Jacobs taking it on the cards. Neither can I see him taking it by knockout. So really, what I'm saying is, I don't think Danny Jacobs is going to win. But I think people are underestimating. When I say people, I don't mean pundits. I mean just the general public who have a interest in boxing or have, a slight interest in boxing. Let's say, I think they're massively underestimating that how far Jacobs can take it. I think that a lot of people are thinking it's going to be an execution job, similar to the Rocky Fielding fight. Now, those people might not be as what's the word? They might not be as experienced in watching boxing, or they might be just a casual armchair viewer. But I don't know. I think Jacobs is being a little bit underestimated.
I agree with you. I think this is a really, really intriguing fight. Danny Jacobs is a very good boxer, in my opinion. And if he plays his cards right, depends on what his game plan is. He could have trained to outbox Canelo, and I think he probably does have those skills in his locker to do that. Because he can. He's rangier. He's a taller fighter. He's got a longer jab, and he can go in and out very, very quickly. He has all those tools to cause Canelo real problems. And if he played his cards right in this fight, he could literally basically box Canelo at a distance. I think that's probably his best chance of winning this fight. Well, ironically, everyone says that his best chance of winning this fight is knocking Canelo out. Yes, obviously, knocking him out is a good option, but I'm not sure he can knock Canelo out. Triple G could knock Canelo out.
Exactly. Well, I was going to say, can anyone knock Canelo out? I don't think there's anyone.
Triple G can't knock him out, so I can't see Danny Jacobs knocking him out. Is Danny Jacobs a bigger puncher than Triple G? I'm not sure. I'm not sure. So. Does it punch as hard as Triple G? Not sure. I don't know. I mean, it's all debatable because, it does punch hard, and it did hurt Triple G at some points in their fight. But I don't know. I don't know. I mean, there's arguments. His last two fights
Yeah.
against Suleski and against the Russian guy.
Mm.
You know, he went the distance with them, and obviously the Russian guy is a pretty good fighter
Yeah.
in my
Yeah.
book. He's no slouch. He's a really
Yeah.
good fighter. But
Yeah.
the Suleski one, and even the one before, the fight before Suleski, he went the distance with Arias.
Mm.
So I'm not so sure that he's got all that. He's got that punching power. And even if he has, and maybe he was just being conservative in those other fights,
Mm.
if he comes out being reckless, then all you have to do is take a look at what happened against Dimitri Pirog.
Mm.
You
Mm.
got Spartel against Dimitri Pirog.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're right. The thing is, on from a judge's viewpoint, who's going to look the more flashier boxer? It's always going to be Canelo. I think he's got the faster hands, he's got the angles, he's got the punching range. So in my view, if if you're looking at it from a judge's standpoint, then regardless of who's got the punching power, I think Canelo. If it goes to 12 rounds, I think Canelo does the more eye-catching work. He does the more
I'm not
eye-catching
so
work.
sure.
Mm. Yeah.
We'll see. I'm not so sure. I think
Yeah.
yeah, I think a lot of people don't underestimate Danny Jacobs as a
Oh, no, I'm
boxer.
not saying that. No, I'm not saying Danny Jacobs doesn't have that. Like that. Well, I mean, I think Danny Jacobs can fight to that level. What I'm
Yeah,
saying is from gone.
I guess what I'm saying is styles makes fights.
Yeah, I think
And
it's an intriguing fight.
whilst Canelo looks very classy and flashy,
Yeah,
fighting against Golovkin, it's
yeah.
not quite the same fighting as somebody else. I mean, he didn't look very flashy and classy against Amir Khan, for
That's true.
starters.
But I think that's because I think that was down to a couple of reasons. I think because Khan comes from a lower weight class.
Mm-hmm.
He's of a lighter weight class. He's renowned for having fast hands and etc. etc. I think because he's the lighter fighter, that's why it became a battle of wits versus brawn. And Canelo had that sheer power, and he knew the tactics were just to knock him spark out. I don't think he went into that fight trying to be that eye-catching fighter. Whereas with Golovkin, because he was facing someone that's just going to keep on going forward, regardless of how much he can pack in one punch. You remember that punch that Canelo threw at him, the overhand right? They threw at him. Like he put all his force into that punch in the first fight. Put all his force. It was like the perfect punch.
Yeah,
and it
Golovkin
didn't do anything. He just stood and took it, and he just walked forward.
Yeah.
It didn't deter him in the slightest.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think the point I'm trying to make kind of ties in with the point that you've made, which is styles make fights. So I think I don't know. I think this fight it might be more suited to Canelo more than the Golovkin fight. Maybe I don't know. It's a hard one to call really because
you see, my personal view is that yes, Canelo is an excellent boxer, but people are underestimating how much of an excellent boxer Danny Jacobs is.
Oh no! Well, that's my point as well. That's what I'm saying. I think a lot of people are underestimating what Jacobs can bring to the table. Now,
and that's what I'm talking about in terms of eye-catching boxing. Like who looks impressive boxing. I think people underestimate Danny Jacobs. It's like the whole Amir Khan and Terence Crawford thing, isn't it? Where Amir Khan's got faster hands. Oh, he's gonna outbox Crawford. I was thinking, I'm not so sure about that. Crawford is a brilliant boxer, and when you look at the fight and the way it was playing out, you could tell that Crawford was really eye-catching with his boxing.
You're right, actually, because that fight proved me wrong. Because I was part of the camp which said that Khan was going to probably win the first 4 or 5 rounds, and then it'd be quite similar to the Canelo fight, where after the first 5 or 6 rounds, when Terence Crawford got a look in, he wouldn't start taking over. But it was the opposite. Terence Crawford dominated from the first bell. Really, when you think about it, when you look at it holistically, Crawford dominated that fight, and the reason that I'm not saying Khan quit or anything. This is a different debate altogether. But I'm not saying Khan quit, but I think he was broken in that fight before what eventually happened. I think he was destroyed in that fight in terms of mentally, physically. He knew that there was no way out. Not saying he quit. I'm not saying in the slightest that he quit, but I just think Terence Crawford broke him because the first 6 rounds went completely against the grain. How many was it? 5 rounds? Sorry, was it 5 round fight? I can't remember. When did he?
I think it was about 5 rounds. Yeah.
5 rounds. Yeah. So the first 3 or 4 rounds, Crawford came out the faster, flashier, more eye-catching boxer, arguably. So I mean, the thing is with this fight, with this Canelo Jacobs fight, it's actually a very intriguing fight. It could be a good one. This one, it could be a really, really good fight. This one.
Could be.
I'm really looking forward to it. Honestly, I bet I told you on last time was Thursday, Friday.
Yes.
I'm really looking forward to this one because I think it has all the makings. This one of being, being a good one. This one, you can see it. Yeah.
Just to give you an update, Saddam Ali is getting into the ring.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
I think he might be having his jaw tested today as well.
Really?
Yeah, I reckon Saddam Ali is going to get his jaw tested today.
Oh, that's a big call.
He might be finding a nice sweet spot to go to sleep on the canvas as well. Yeah, I'm not so sure. I don't know much about his opponent.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just have a funny feeling about him being a bit suspect.
Well,
we'll see.
If your predictions follow the same route as the first fight, then you might be right.
I could be wrong.
You could be right.
I think, to be honest, I don't really know who this guy is. I mean, I need to be checking BoxRec to see, if he's any decent. But,
where's he from again? This new guy, the opponent? Do you know?
Let me have it. Oh, look, I'm just going to BoxRec this now.
Yeah.
Hold on a second, let me BoxRec this. Let's have a look. Are you watching this as well on Sky?
No, I need to get my laptop out.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. I need to get the thing out.
So now he's boxing well though.
Right?
I'm gonna be eating my words tonight on this one.
Oh God!
He's boxing well.
If Canelo loses in the first round, then I think we will both be eating our words. Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? It's gonna be one of those nights, I think.
Oh gosh.
Also, did you see Amir Khan's protege last night? Was it last night?
Oh yeah. Who's this?
So it's a Pakistani fighter, and I don't know if Amir Khan's promoting him or just his mentor, or I'm not sure. But he fought last night, I think, in Dubai.
Okay.
I don't know. I have no idea what weight class this guy's in, or whether if it was an official fight. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But he won. I think Khan's gonna start promoting him to fight professionally or fight in the on a higher level or something. I'm not. You might want to do some research on that. Yeah, check him out. I can't remember his name from the top of my head, but it was all over my Instagram last night. He fought in Dubai for. So I don't think it was like any kind of title / professional fight. Yeah, up and coming.
Okay, well, I'll go check him out.
Yeah, check him out. Yeah.
Check him out. This guy that Saddam Ali's fighting is Anthony Young. Is 20-2.
20-2. Okay.
Yeah. So obviously Saddam Ali is 27-2.
Yeah.
Obviously he was knocked out, Saddam Ali. So there's always suspects about him, getting knocked out.
Well, you've called it.
Mongia is. He's not anyone to be sniffed at in terms of getting knocked out. If you get knocked out by someone, Herman Mongia is not a bad person to be knocking you out, really.
That jaw's getting tested tonight. That's what you said. Quote unquote. That is getting tested tonight.
I think it's going to get tested.
Yeah?
I really do. Yeah, I think he might get knocked out.
Let's keep an eye on that one.
We'll keep it up.
Yeah.
Now, let me tell you my bets for this fight.
Mm.
So I went for. Let's see if I can pull up my bets. Okay, just gonna pull up my bets now.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, just getting my bets. Okay, so
Yeah,
I went for Saul Alvarez by majority decision.
Oof.
That's
Oof.
a 10-1. So
Yeah.
I've placed a 30p bet.
Go high, go
That's
high.
massive money.
Go,
That's massive money. So
go high or go home.
and that's
Love it.
returning. That's going to return £3.30.
There you go.
Then
I'll pay for a good meal deal on Monday morning.
then I've also gone for this one's a big one. £1.
Mm. Oh, damn.
I'm going big here.
Big stakes. God.
And that's on the fight not going the distance. And that's returning £3.
So you're placing the majority of the money on the fight not going the distance.
Well, then
higher amount.
the third bet.
Oh,
My bets are all
okay.
over the place, but this is because this fight is just so unpredictable.
Yeah.
And I'm going for Danny Jacobs win.
Yeah.
Anyhow, 50p. That's returning £2.37. So my theory is that if it goes the distance, obviously Alvarez is gonna get it. And if Alvarez gets it, it's most likely going to be some sort of controversial stuff if it goes the distance. That's my view. And I reckon there will be some sort of majority decision win.
Do you not think that Alvarez can win clean if it goes to
I don't know. Any reason for Danny Jacobs to go the distance is telling me that he's going to be competitive in the fight.
But being competitive...
Otherwise, he's getting stopped. He's getting stopped, you know. If he's not being competitive in that fight, he's getting stopped by Canelo Alvarez. I'm sorry, I can't see any way around it. He's gonna get stopped.
But then what? But do you not see the 12 rounds being evenly fought where it could go either way?
That's what I'm saying. But the only way that's gonna happen is if Danny Jacobs is able to stay away from serious punches from Alvarez. Serious punches. And if he's getting serious punches, he's going to get stopped. He's going to get stopped by Canelo if he's taking serious punches from him. I can't see him taking serious punches for 12 rounds.
What if though? Just to put a spanner in the works. What if it's those
I lose on my bets because obviously he's going to win. He's going to win by unanimous decision.
I wouldn't worry about those bets, to be honest. That's important. No, but you got to start somewhere. But okay, let me put a spanner in the works. What if it's one of those really niggly, hard to call kind of fights where both fighters are being defensive, both fighters aren't getting into exchanges, both fighters are just clinching. To be fair, Alvarez isn't that kind of fighter, but I'm just thinking a hypothetical situation out there where it's niggly, both styles that the fighters go for negate each other, and it becomes a very negative, drawn out affair.
It's possible. I would say the reason why I'd say that's possible is simply because Canelo likes to take time off, take off rounds. He likes to rest in between rounds. So, but the thing is, before he takes his rest, he usually he spends himself a bit. So he goes all out and then takes a rest, and then goes all out again and takes a rest. But I can't. I mean, honestly, if he's going all out, he's either hitting him or not hitting anything.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
So if he's hitting something, I tell you, I'm not sure Danny Jacobs, if he's landing successfully, it's gonna be an early night. But if
what if Danny Jacobs starts landing?
That's what I'm saying. If Danny Jacobs is landing, I can't see. No matter what happens, Danny. Well, anyway, I've got the fight not going the distance. Either way, if he miraculously knocks Canelo out, I mean, let's just be honest with each other. If he knocks him out, it's a miracle. There's no
It's a
way,
miracle.
I
But
can't
what if
see
though?
him.
What if we're underestimating Jacobs' chin?
Then I'm
What?
3 pounds richer, anyways.
You're gonna win anyway, aren't you? You've got no problem. But what if we're underestimating Danny Jacobs' chin? What if both fighters punch two bells out of each other and neither gets knocked down? What if it becomes a rehash of the Gennady Golovkin Canelo fight where they both go hell for leather and we're underestimating Danny Jacobs' chin here and he just doesn't go down? He takes those punches.
The likelihood then is that you could get a majority decision where one judge calls it a different way then judges are more likely to see it in different ways, if you see what I mean. Then
but the judges are going to be more inclined to see it, like you say, from
I
from
would have
Canelo.
thought the majority judges would go with Canelo anyways.
Yeah.
No matter whether Canelo was outboxed or.
You know what, Daniel? You know what you should do?
Yeah.
You know what you should do? I'm going to make you a rich man tonight.
Go on.
Put a fiver.
Fiver?
Put a fiver. Put a fiver. I know.
What, a fiver?
I know.
I'm not a betting man. I don't bet.
I know it's slightly a bit more higher than you've been accustomed to tonight, but put a fiver. Put a fiver. Okay, put £3 on a knockout victory for Jacobs.
I get that anyways on a fight not going the distance. I get a 2-1.
Well, but as in like pick around. So because nowadays you can.
I'll tell you what. Bet. Let me tell you what the odds are for Danny Jacobs' knockout.
Yeah.
Let's see.
They're gonna be low, aren't they?
So, fight outcome: Danny Jacobs KO TKO. There's a 10-1, so it's big money. I mean, if I put 20p on that, that still returns about £2.
Yeah. That's not bad.
Yeah,
well,
I'll stick to my.
All I'm saying is go big, go home. Go big or go home. I think this one's
Saddam Ali. Saddam Ali. Oh my God! It's been stopped. It's been stopped. Saddam Ali's been stopped.
I need to get my laptop out.
It's been stopped.
Has it been stopped? What round was that? Second round?
Third round. Third round. It's been stopped. I told you, the guy's chin is suspect. The guy's got a suspect chin.
Damn. It went the way you said.
I called it again. It's the second fight I called this night.
Oh. So the thing, the problem is at the minute is you're calling the Canelo fight 3 different ways. Now, if you called it one way, then it'd be all right. You'd be winning a bit of money tonight. But you're calling it 3 different ways. That ain't on. That ain't on in the betting world.
Oh, days. Let's move on this then.
Yeah.
So, so obviously, then moving on to the undercard, we've already talked about some of them.
Yep.
We've got John Ryder, which obviously we've seen the outcome of that.
These undercard fights are like finishing before we can even start talking about them. This ending so quick. You know what I mean? Oh my God! I don't even know who's on the undercard anymore. I don't even know who's on the undercard anymore.
No, we still got Jojo Diaz and Virgil Ortiz.
Oh yeah. That'd be a close one, I think.
That should obviously Jojo Diaz is going to win that one. I mean,
do you reckon?
I could put money on it. I mean,
can you put more than 50p on it? Can you put more than 50p on it?
Yeah, I could put 50p on it. But obviously, Virgil Ortiz, I don't know. I'm not really so sure about that one.
Yeah.
He's an old man. So we'll have to see how that one goes.
Yeah.
Yeah, on to other stuff then. What about did you hear the news about Golovkin